Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Are you real? Not biologically, not legally. I mean, do you actually exist? Or are you just performing a life that was handed to you? You wake up, you check your phone, you chase deadlines, likes, dopamine hits, you say, I'm here, I'm alive. But in 1927, a German philosopher named Martin Heidegger looked directly into the human condition and asked a question that cuts deeper than identity, culture, even consciousness itself. Yes, but are you being? Heidegger didn't write Being in Time to impress other philosophers. He wrote it to expose something terrifying, that most of us are not truly alive. We're on autopilot. We're thrown into a world we didn't choose, chasing meanings that were programmed into us. We wear the clothes, use the words, and want the things that they, Dasein, told us to want. And the worst part, we mistake this performance for freedom. But what if I told you that your anxiety, your confusion, that strange ache in your chest isn't a flaw, it's a signal, it's your being trying to wake you up? In the next few minutes, we're going to go somewhere most people never dare to look, into the question of being, not to find an answer, but to find you. Heidegger doesn't begin where most philosophers begin. He doesn't ask, what is the soul? What is thought? What is reality? He starts by digging beneath all of that to the one question we all assume, but never ask out loud. What does it mean to be? See, the problem is we use the word being all the time. Human being, state of being, but we never stop to ask, what is being actually? Not in the poetic sense, in the ontological sense, in the most raw, metaphysical, gut-wrenching way. Heidegger's answer is Dasein. It's a German word. Literally, it means being there. But don't think of it like a place or a label. Dasein is not something you are. It's something you do. It's the way you exist as the one who cares. Not a robot, not a rock, not just a body wandering through time, but a being who knows it's being. Think about it. A rock exists, but it never asks, why am I here? A cat exists, but it never questions the meaning of its life. But you wake up at 2 a.m. and stare at the ceiling, asking questions no one trained you to ask. Am I wasting my life? Is this really who I am? Why do I feel like something's missing? That's Dasein. You are the being for whom being is a question. Heidegger says you are not just in the world, you are thrown into it. You didn't choose your body. You didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose the time you were born into. But here you are, thrown, exposed, awake. And that ache you carry, that silent urge that there has to be more, that isn't depression, that isn't confusion, that is the most human part of you. It's your being calling you home. Let me say something you probably haven't admitted out loud. You didn't ask for this. You didn't ask to be born into this body, this name, this century. You didn't get to choose your language, your skin, your parents' trauma, and yet here you are. Heidegger has a word for this brutal, disorienting truth. He calls it Geworfenheit. It means thrownness. You were thrown into the world, like dice across a table. No explanation, no instruction manual. Just here, a life already in motion, a culture already talking, a system already telling you what matters. And what do you do with that kind of chaos? That weight of being born without a script? Most people run. They hide, not in caves, but in patterns. You scroll endlessly. You chase goals that aren't yours. You imitate people you don't even like. Why? Because it's easier than facing the terrifying fact you don't know who you are, and the world is ready to give you a mask. Heidegger calls that world of masks Dasein, literally the they. The they says, this is how you should dress. This is what a good life looks like. This is what success means. And we follow. We say the things people say. We post what people post. We want what we're told to want. You ever catch yourself laughing at something just because others did, nodding when you don't even agree, feeling anxious because you're not keeping up with some imaginary timeline? That's not you. That's the they living through you. You've stopped being and started performing. And yet, if you're quiet enough, there's a voice under the noise, a whisper, not loud, not angry, just true. It says, this isn't me. You feel it when you're alone, when the screen's off, when the masks fall, that itch, that ache, that strange sense that something's missing, but you don't know what. That's your being, trying to wake you up. Because the tragedy isn't that we were thrown into a world we didn't choose. The tragedy is that we forget we can still choose who we become inside it. Most people live as if life is a dress rehearsal. They say, someday I'll do what matters. They delay the honest conversation. They shelve the risky dream. They keep wearing the mask because deep down they believe there will be time. But Heidegger stares straight into that delusion. He says, no, you don't have time. Death isn't some far-off event that happens at the end. It's already inside your existence. The moment you were born, your death became possible, and every second since, you've been moving toward it. Think about that. Death isn't waiting for you at some random date. It's shaping your life right now. Every missed chance, every silenced truth, every day you drift through. It's all happening under the shadow of your ending. Heidegger doesn't talk about death like doctors do, not as a clinical fact. He speaks of something deeper, being toward death. It's not about when you'll die. It's about how you live when you know you will. It's the psychological stance of someone who has stopped pretending, someone who looks the void in the face and lets it change them. Because when you realize you're finite, you stop living like everyone else. You stop floating in the crowd of Dasein. You stop chasing the timeline, the approval, the applause. Because you realize no one else can die your death for you, which means no one else can live your life for you. You know what happens? When you stop avoiding death, you stop avoiding life. That side project you shelved, that conversation you've been too afraid to have, that version of yourself you've been postponing, you realize it's not later, it's now. I imagine waking up, and instead of reaching for your phone, you hear a voice. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it just says you are one day closer to the end. Most people would call that morbid, but Heidegger calls it freedom. Because when you remember you're dying, you finally start living. Most people live their entire lives inside a hallucination, a spell. They think they're making choices. They think their desires are theirs. But really, they're sleepwalking through someone else's script. They say, I should get this degree. I should want this lifestyle. I should be married by now. They say it like it's truth. But Heidegger stops you like a hand on your chest and asks, who is they? Who told you this? Whose life are you living? Heidegger calls this illusion Dasein, the they. It's not a person. It's the invisible cloud of norms, trends, shoulds, and expectations. It's the voice that tells you to fit in, to stay quiet, to follow the map, even if the map leads nowhere. And when you live as they, you abandon your being. You stop existing as a who and become a what. a function, a role, a number in the algorithm. You surrender your inner world to the crowd. You let other people's definitions decide your reality. And the tragedy is, you do it without even noticing. But there's a way out. Heidegger calls it authenticity. And no, it doesn't mean being quirky. It doesn't mean expressing your aesthetic. It means something far more dangerous, owning your existence. It means standing in front of your life, naked, exposed, and saying, "This path is mine." Not because it's easy, not because it's popular, but because it's true. But you can't choose it until you confront death. Because until you feel the limit of your life, you won't feel the weight of your choices. You'll stay in the fog, following trends, posting quotes, pretending. But when you realize I will die, not metaphorically, not one day, but actually and soon, something inside you breaks open. And in that moment, you stop asking, what should I do? And start asking, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? What would I do if I didn't owe anyone a performance? That's authenticity, not comfort, not peace, but truth. The raw, trembling act of choosing your life before it's taken from you. You've been lied to. You've been told that time is a straight line, past to present to future, like ticks on a clock. But Heidegger whispers something terrifyingly beautiful. Time isn't outside of you. You are time. See, when we say, I remember, or I'm planning, or even I am right now, those aren't passive states. Those are ways of being. Heidegger calls this temporality, and it means your being is stretched, like a tension between what has been and what could be, and the present. It's not a point in time, it's a pulse. A clearing, the space where you hold your past and project your future. Why does that matter? Because it means you're not a passive object in time. You are time. The way you interpret your past shapes your now. The way you see your future pulls you forward. And the way you show up in this moment changes both. That's why being toward death isn't just morbid, it's liberating. Because when you see time as your own unfolding, you stop waiting to become. You already are. Not a thing, not a mind, but a project, a becoming, a being in the world who chooses, acts, falls, and returns. Heidegger didn't give us answers. He didn't build a system or a map or a 10-step plan for life. What he gave us was a mirror, one that doesn't show your face, but your being. You were never just a body walking through time. You are time. You were never just a name in a crowd. You are Dasein, the one who questions, the one who cares, the one who, when silent at 3 a.m., quietly aches for a life that feels real. But the world doesn't want you real. The world wants you comfortable, distracted, number. It wants you buried in they self, scrolling, conforming, consuming. But you, if you're still here, you've tasted something different. You've seen that being is not just existing, it's becoming, and becoming is terrifying because it demands freedom, not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the deeper freedom to choose your truth even if it costs you everything. So now the question isn't, what should I do? The question is, will I dare to be? Because the world doesn't need more clever people. It needs more real ones.